Prime Fitness's Shorty Bench is one of the more unique and well thought out adjustable benches on the market. And not to ruin the review, but it's an outstanding bench, though it's not without its flaws. In a home gym, versatility is king, and the Shorty has quite a few tricks up its sleeve to maximize the amount of things it can do. With an ever-growing ecosystem of attachments that are all very quick and easy to get on and off, and a build quality that rivals the best on the market. This is easily one of my favorite benches, and I say that owning and having reviewed everything from ones that cost under $100 to well over $1,000. So in this review, we're gonna make some comparisons to see where the Shorty ranks against the competition. If you're interested in any of the benches we talk about, they're linked in the description. And if you use one of those links to buy something, the company will send us a small commission at no cost to you, which is how I managed to buy this and many of the other things we're about to talk about. So thank you so much for helping me to keep this channel going. Let's start this off by calling it what it is. This is a premium commercial quality product. But let's stop right there because those are some of the most overused terms companies tack on to help their sales. Not everything can be commercial and premium. Premium? Commercial? Okay, in all fairness, I didn't actually check if the things I just threw were labeled premium or commercial. I just threw them to prove a point that had nothing to do with throwing things. I've owned dozens of benches, and I probably labeled 2 of them commercial quality. Rogue's Manta Ray and this. So what sets them apart from the rest? The build quality and attention to detail on these American-made benches are second to none. That also means they're pretty expensive, but if you're looking for the best, these go a step above because they're designed for commercial spaces where hundreds of people would use them every week. Yeah, they're probably over the top and overbuilt for a home gym, but you'll find high-end and clever touches throughout. So for example, on the Shorty Bench, the brace that goes across the back of the pads goes from edge to edge, whereas on something like Rep's AB 5200, it covers just over half. There's also the lack of a hinge between the pads. The Shorty's hinge is a little different than what you typically see. They've got a U-shaped system that not only keeps the gap tiny, no matter what angle anything's set to, it's like a ½ an inch at its max, making it so the hinge is never in your way. If you've used something like the Titan Series bench where the hinge sits up too high and it can be a bit uncomfortable when it, well, makes contact with your buns, then you know what I'm talking about. Of course, you'll also find all the things you'd expect with this level of quality. Just unboxing this thing is an experience. I've never seen packaging like this, and it comes mostly assembled. They even give you torque specs for the bolts. Not even I'm that nerdy. There's also 8 very well done finishes to choose from, and longtime viewers probably already figured out that my wife picked a color on this one because her color palette is a little bit brighter and bolder than my typically depressing blacks and grays, but the finish on this is gorgeous and the color is growing on me, though I should note that no matter what color you pick, the rubber handles and pop pins will always be green, so if that bothers you, Basement Brandon has a video that I'll link below on how you can swap those out. Outside of that, you'll find 10 back positions ranging from flat to 85 degrees and 5 seat positions. Since it's a ladder style bench, it's incredibly easy to adjust. You just pick it up and it locks in, but there's no cage on the front or the back of this, and I tend to prefer cages because it makes things a little simpler. It's not a deal breaker, more of a nitpick, like the fact that the seat angles aren't marked, whereas every single back position is. A nice touch with those back positions is, although 10 back positions is somewhat standard on a ladder style bench, Prime has provided more low angles than high, which makes sense. There's more exercises where you'd want lower angles, but most adjustables just evenly distribute their positions. Also, since it's a fid bench, meaning it can decline, stacking those lower angles gives you a little more versatility. It's very stable too. They're using a thick gauge steel, the welds are gorgeous, and this thing is beefy and feels as solid as anything else I've got, and yet it's still fairly light. I actually think Prime has erred on the side of caution with their weight capacities. It's listed as 1,000 pounds when flat and 600 when inclined, but those are kind of your standard numbers many companies use. They actually put it in line with Rep's AB4100's capacities, which is a much less expensive, although very nice home gym quality bench. But the only thing the Shorty has in common with that is its compact footprint. The Shorty is light and easy to move around at 95 pounds with the head pad on, which is one of the reasons Winnie likes it so much. To put its weight in perspective, Rep's AB5200 2.0 is 115 pounds, and their Blackwing is 131 pounds, going on a ton, since the Blackwing is very front heavy and a great investment if you never want your wife to lift with you. But specs and build quality aside, to me, the appeal of this bench is in the attachments, and I bought all the ones that are currently out right now. They've got an add-on coming that will allow you to store it upright, because right now you can't. And if you saw our coverage of Prime at Home Gym Con, then you know their leg extension and curl attachment is also coming. That one's very exciting because it'll work with their benches, the Prodigy line, and other 3x3 1-inch racks, though that release is still a few months out. But it should line up with our huge bench buyer's guide, where we'll break down and compare dozens of benches. So subscribe so you don't miss that one. It's gonna be good. Now, there's a lot of very good benches out there. Rep's 5200 would be the first one that comes to mind if you're looking for a high-end bench for your home gym that doesn't break the bank. But if you're looking for an adjustable bench that can do more than just adjust, the Shorty is a great option. There are a few benches with good ecosystems out there. Ironmaster's Super Bench has reigned supreme for many years, and it's another option I really like. Ironmaster has a clear lead in the versatility department. They've got a ton of attachments and pretty much everything you could ever want, and then some. But where the Shorty has an advantage is that it looks and feels like your typical adjustable bench, and you're not going to be blown away by the build quality or attachments on the Super Bench, at least not next to this. Bells of Steel has also been building their options up with the Buzzsaw, but their attachments have always kind of felt like a bolted-on afterthought. With Prime, you're getting the opposite experience. These attachments and how they integrate are clearly well thought out. I mean, look at how easy it is to take the head pad off. One pop pin. Literally could not be simpler or quicker. It comes with the head pad, by the way, and with it on, the Shorty is long enough for flat bench pressing exercises, but with it off, you no longer have to make out with your bench during spider curls, and it makes other exercises where you're facing the pad, like chest supported row, much more comfortable. Not only that, but I'm able to do dumbbell tricep extensions without the back pad getting in the way, and it gives my shoulders and head enough space for things like overhead press. It's a very clever and well-engineered system, and all the attachments are stable during use, and I probably should have started the video with that. There's a few ways to swap attachments. With the Preacher pad, this just pops on, and it's my favorite attachment, no surprise there. I just line it up with the back pad attachment point, lift it up, and it clicks in. I've always wanted a dedicated Preacher curl, but that's a lot of space to dedicate to a limited number of movements. With this, you can easily change the back pad angle to make it resemble more of a spider curl, or pull it up to your traditional 45 to 60 degrees, or whatever feels best for you. Bringing us to the recurring theme of this video. The attachments are well made, the pads are comfortable, and it's expensive at $200 for the Preacher pads, but code GLUCK does save you 5% on this and pretty much everything else at Prime, which at least ends up canceling out the shipping costs. Which brings us to the Cradle attachment. This just slips on over the end post, and as you can see, it's a little loose, but it's not a factor. I mean, I can literally stand on this, maybe not a great idea, and it'll be fine because it's made of 11 gauge steel. Now, you don't need both of these, but they do work together, and if you don't enjoy performing the classic chest flop, it may be a good investment. With the preacher pads on and the back set to 60 degrees, you've got a 45-degree preacher angle, and they work great together. But if you drop the back lower, they may get in each other's way and affect your range of motion. Of course, you don't need the preacher on and can use this on its own for incline rows or whatever else. It also has two UHMW inserts that just kind of sit on a storage hook back here that you obviously can't see, but believe me, it's here. And these just slot into the ends, and now this can be used for barbell work as well. You don't have to buy all the attachments. And if I could do it all again, I wouldn't get the elbow pads. Not because they're necessarily bad, they basically work like a more comfortable arm blaster, though I've also tried them for things like floor presses, but they're not quite big enough, and I've even used them to add support to flat bench, essentially making the bench pad feel wider. It's just that for all my tinkering, I haven't personally found enough use for them for me to justify the price. They do demonstrate another set of attachment points on the Shorty, which makes me wonder what else Prime will come up with for this, because you've got the back where the head and the preacher goes on, you've got the side rails, and even a couple points along the rear brace they could utilize. Either way, these come on and off very easily, just like everything else. You've got a single pop pin, and then as you saw before, they can be stored on the back brace, but I keep mine on Prime's wall-mounted storage system. The decline attachment works well. It pops on where the back pad would, and although there's a little lateral movement, once you're in position and using it, it works great, and it's solid and stable. It's also an upgrade over most companies' offerings because Prime isn't reusing the same generic design and pads everyone else is, and they're one of the few who include a handle, making it easier to get into and out of position. I will say though, decline may be the one time I felt the Shorty Bench was a little short for me at 6 foot tall. If length is something you really value, that doesn't sound right, you could check out Prime's adjustable bench, which is nearly identical to this, just with a longer back pad. They're both designed to do angles up to about -30 degrees, and those work great, but if you go much past that, because the ladder doesn't lock in, you may get a bit of a surprise. Ask me how I know. At this point, it's pretty clear I really like this bench, but it's the pad that may make it or break it for you. Just like everywhere else, Prime's using high-end materials, so the vinyl stitching and overall quality of the foam and pad is great, but much like knurling on a barbell, the perfect pad is subjective. The Shorty's pad is a little softer, thinner, and narrower at 10.5 inches wide than many other adjustable benches. Now, there's pros and cons to that. For example, I prefer a 12-inch wide pad for flat pressing. That's what's on Rogue's Manta Ray, and I really love that pad. It's really just the Thompson Fat Pad, but put on an adjustable bench. It's firm, if not almost too firm, incredibly grippy, and overall a phenomenal pad and bench, but I'm not a huge fan of it on incline work. It's almost too sticky. There I feel like I can't set my shoulders because they're stuck to the pad. The counter to that is this pad. I'd argue it's actually soft and a little narrow if you're doing a lot of heavy flat pressing. Since Prime's vinyl doesn't have much grip, it's harder to keep your shoulders set and keep yourself from sliding if you're using a lot of leg drive. If that sounds like you and you don't have the space for a dedicated flat bench like Rogue's Monster or Rep's FB5000, those would be my top choices, then try my workaround. You can use some sick cutoff shirts or go shirtless to impress your wife when you're benching. Now, it hasn't worked for me, but at least grip is no longer an issue. That being said, the Shorty excels everywhere else. I love this bench and pad for literally anything outside of heavy flat pressing because I'm able to maneuver my shoulders and get into position better. It's also a very comfortable pad, which means it's earned my wife's very important seal of approval. So clearly we've got an exceptional and expensive bench at just under $800 shipped with code GLUCK. So if you can't convince your family to let you spend that kind of money, just tell them you were going to get Prime's XL bench and thought you'd save the family some money with the Shorty. I hope that works for you. When they drop the leg extension and leg curl, if it's anywhere near the quality we expect from Prime, this will probably be hands down my favorite bench. Until then, I'm still very happy with it. But let me know what you think about it, and if there's any other benches you want us to see, let us know in the comments, and check out this playlist here to see our extensive set of bench reviews. Thanks to our Patreons, and thanks for watching.